It is always a thrill for me to speak to great minds in the game and great golfers in the game. And we have a guest on this show that I've gotten to know. I count myself fortunate. For the years on YouTube, there he is. He's graying, he's dapper, he's a two-time US Open champion, just a doyen of television. I'm aspiring to be like him. And he's Andy North. Andy, how are you? So glad to have you.
Mark, thanks. Appreciate it. I know that you barely got through last week as I did, so it's nice to get it finished and have a champion on a Sunday night.
You're looking awfully more put together than I am after the week at the Masters. Huh?
Yeah, Susan wandering around.
Yeah, it's good to be back home. She wants to see you because you've been away working so much.
Yeah.
Before we get to golf and learning about golf and playing under tough conditions and recapping some of the Masters, I want to put you into context for our fans around the world who might not be golf geeks like me, who know every US Open champion from way back when. So, would you please give us the brief bio?
Yeah. Andy North lived in Madison, Wisconsin for a bunch of years. I went to the University of Florida 1,000 years ago. Played college golf, turned pro right after. Got married, started a family, and stumbled around on tour back when we drove everywhere,
Yeah.
which was always interesting. Some of those stories are worth getting on air one of these days for you, because it was lunacy. But all in all, I've been lucky enough to get involved with this silly golf game in a real weird way. I had a bone disease as a kid, had to stop playing all their sports, and the doctor didn't play golf, and he let me go out and try to hit balls if I rode a cart, and that's kind of how I got started.
Incredible. Well, you sound very coy and modest as you ordinarily do. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, this guy played in the Nicholas and the Trevino and the Watson and all these guys. You played in that era. Two-time major champion. As you look back on the career sum, and I want to talk about one of those US Opens, if there were lessons to be learned and an aspirant young professional came to you and said, okay, Mr. North, what advice do you have for me? Would there be such a thing? And if so, what?
Sure. I think, and I tell this to most kids when I do talk about how to get better, that sort of thing. I think the most important thing in this game, and it has nothing to do with how you take the club away, it's how you set up for putts. It's you understanding you and what you need to do well, and then owning what you do. And I think it's that simple. If we see a lot of different golf swings, and you've taught a lot of different players over the years, that you see a Scotty Scheffler, you'd never teach his footwork, but that's what he does. He owns it. It's his. In our time, you had guys like Miller Barber.
Yeah.
That he actually came on tour. Guys told him, you got to fix your swing. He went back, tried to get it where it looked more normal, came back and was terrible, and literally went and got a club job and decided just to play golf the way he always did, came back and played 50 years. So it's understanding what you do, try to get better within the context of what you do, and not really worry about trying to be perfect and have it look perfect. And we saw the swing of Sam Bennett, the amateur, last week. That's definitely nothing you'd ever teach anybody, but it's his. And it works just great for him.
I have to ask you this because what you say is so savvy, profound. People have sort of heard this from a contemporary of yours, and Arnold Palmer. You swing your swing, not some idea of the swing. But I know what it's like, and you know what it's like when you walk on the range and nowadays you see Rory drive it, or you see Brooks Koepka hit an iron, or you see Dustin Johnson, all of these guys. There's that aspirational sort of a value, there's that like, oh my goodness, that guy, I don't measure up. Help folks from that point of view also, because there's place for all of us in the game. We've just got to be true to who we are, as you point out.
Well, absolutely. And yeah, there's some guys that probably have a huge advantage over you if they drive it by you 50 yards every hole. But the golf ball doesn't care.
Yeah.
There's just that little teeny spot on the scorecard to put that score in. There's not like an explanation area of how you did it. If I hit driver 4-iron 8 feet from the hole and Rory hits a driver and a wedge 30, I'm way better off than he is. And I think that's what people have to understand. And unfortunately, they get so caught up in all the hype and all the stuff that really has nothing to do with how you play golf.
Mm.
If you know how to play golf, you can play it if you hit a 210 or a 310. And I think that's the beauty of the game.
And I guess, and I'd love your take, understanding one's capabilities. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like having your hand in poker, playing your hand, not necessarily trying to play somebody else's hand when you're out there.
Well, I think if you look at, some of the great players we've had, and there's Tom Lehman, won a major championship, really a great player for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
He could hit one shot.
Yeah.
That's it. He could hit one shot. He could hit one chip shot. That's it. Or one pitch shot. But, he knew that, and he worked around it and did some unbelievable stuff on the golf course. Steve Stricker can't hit a cut to save his life. If it is, it's by mistake. Or if he's trying to do it, he always it's a push cut. He misses the green every time.
Yeah.
He's a guy that knows that he can play his tight draw. It works every time. And if there's a pin tucked over in the right-hand corner of the green, hey, put it 20 feet left of the hole and make the putt. He does that more frequently than most.
Such great advice. I want people to take heed of what you just said there, because there's real wisdom and truth to it. And it's difficult. It sounds easy when Andy and I talk about this, but it's difficult to be true to it. Okay, pivoting to your two majors, 2 of 4 victories on tour, I believe. So you win 2 of the big ones. You show up on the big stages, apparently, and both those wins, Cherry Hills in '78 and Oakland Hills, something about the hills, in 1985. Collectively, Andy, you shot even par for those 8 rounds.
Yeah.
And you got 2 US Open trophies. So clearly, you're the guy to talk about when it comes to tough scoring conditions.
Well, I wish I had 2 U.S. Open trophies. We were in a year we didn't get them.
Oh, no, really?
So, yeah. So we keep trying to work on that. There's a few of us that were in that period of time that didn't get any trophies that, you see all the young guys with, on the mantelpiece and stuff that, yeah, you'd love to have that, but hopefully that will happen at some point in time. But I digress. The 2 Opens were really different. And in '78, I was improving every year as a player. I won in '77. I think I had 4 seconds between my win in '77 and winning the Open in '78. I'd finished second at Kemper, which was 2 weeks before. I took the week off beforehand, before the Open. So I went in there really playing pretty well, thinking that, hey, the next thing for me to do is to win a major championship. The USGA and their tournaments were the most important for me growing up. The junior, the amateur were the biggest tournaments for me in my head. So the U.S. Open was like that when I finally turned professional.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there, and it was a kind of a weird week. I went early, tried to get used to the altitude. I wasn't very good early in practice rounds, and then made a swing, literally a wedge or a 9-iron on the very first hole that sort of felt right again. And I got locked in, and I played really, really well the next 65 or 6 or 7 holes, and got out to where I think I had a 4-shot lead. I had a putt on 13 to go I think it was to go 4 up. And lining the putt up, I was telling my caddy, Gary Crandall, who caddied for me then, we make this putt, the tournament's over.
Okay.
Just the kind of smacky talky with your caddy all the time.
Oh, boy. Okay.
And I ripped it right in the middle and never laid the club on another shot the rest of the way in. It was awful.
Really?
I made a bogey at 14, ugly bogey. I buried in the lip of a bunker, par 3 at 15, made double. And then all of a sudden it got exciting. And I kind of chopped it down 16 and made a par, hit a couple of okay shots at 17 and made par. And when I got to the 18th tee, I had a 1-shot lead. And when I hit a 3-iron off of that tee, hit it about 40 yards further than I thought I could possibly hit it, straight through the fairway into some pretty decent U.S. Open rough. And by the time I had to hit the second shot, I had a 2-shot lead. So I knew I could make bogey and win. Chopped it, hit a great shot out of the rough that didn't look like much probably on TV, but I hit it over the water and got it up about 60 yards short of the green. And then thought I hit a really, really good pitch shot. and it caught the very top lip of the bunker and ended up in the bunker, and I had to get it up and in to win.
Golly.
So what looked like it was going to be kind of a fun last hour of golf turned into pretty exciting, at least for me. From the inside, it was quite exciting. But I ended up having about a four or five footer to win and knocked it in. And there was some theatrics. The wind was howling. I backed off it a couple of times. Everybody's going, "Oh my gosh, what's he going to do?" But ended up knocking it in. So that was nice.
You're making light of something that's pretty heavy, and everyone listening to this or watching you have been through that, where stuff just comes apart at the seams, and everything seems like the world is crumbling. Talk to us about the self-talk, or what are you saying to yourself as things are just now unfolding? Because I can imagine what's going on in your mind. Going, my goodness, I was leading 5, now all of a sudden I'm not.
Yeah, it was probably a little disconcerting at the time, but it was when I hit the third shot in the bunker at 18. I felt I was a really, really good bunker player. Never got any credit for it, and Gary and I had this little joke between us that, yeah, great, I got a bunker shot. We get some more votes for best bunker player, and we actually said that before I hit the bunker shot on the 72nd hole of the U.S. Open. Yeah. That, hey, let's go get some votes. And I hit it just exactly what you wanted to do, left it below the hole, the kind of putt you want to have if you need to win something.
That is, there's something to that, when you get singular about something and you give yourself a goal to say, hey, let's do this. It's not a big deal. It's just a bunker shot. I can do this. And the self-talk of it all, taking away from, oh my goodness, this is a bunker shot at the US Open. It's just me in the bunker with a sand club. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, people always talk about all the pressure on these guys. It doesn't come from the media. It doesn't come from the outside noise. It comes from you. And, how much pressure are you willing to put on yourself, and how much of it are you willing to handle? And to me, that's the beautiful part, is that I always put an awful lot of pressure on myself. And, if you do that enough, you get in those situations and hopefully you can handle them.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about the next one, folks. This is how this conversation originated. We were in a TV compound in Atlanta, I think, and Andy was regaling us with stories, which are always entertaining. That's for another podcast. And so I said, Andy, I remember a bunker shot. You had pink slacks, pink trousers on. The bunker was as high as an elephant's eye. You were down there, 71st hole. It was the US Open that TC Chen was leading and had that double chip, earlier in the round. But you came from behind in that one, and you had this up and down on the 17th that was mind-numbing to me, and to this day I remember it. The bunker shot you well below the surface. You hit it up there, I think it was above the hole, and you got this curler down the hill that you buried right into the hearts, and that led to your second victory. Walk us through that event, please.
Well, I think 85 was so different than 78. Going into 78, it was the next step in your career. Okay. When I got to 85, I'd struggled a couple of years. I'd lost my way after the Open. I mean, my goal is win the US Open, and all of a sudden you did it. And, now what do you do? Yeah. That sort of thing. And I, you still practiced, you still played hard, you did that, but there was just something that wasn't quite there for a couple of years. And then I had some injuries. I had an elbow surgery, and didn't play very well in 83 and 84. Had the surgery at the end of 83. 84 was more just trying to learn how to play golf again. I made a bunch of cuts, but didn't make any money. You're finishing 50th every week. And back then, as you know, there wasn't much to 50th.
They're not designated events, are they?
Yeah, no, it wasn't 50 grand. It was 50 cents, but that's a whole nother story. Right. And I had a really good fall and winter at home. I worked out really hard, and really went out in 85 with kind of a mission to play better again. And I did. I had a bunch of really good tournaments. I had some bunch of top tens. I had some disappointments early in the year where I shot some unbelievable rounds, but would make a double bogey on the last hole, or I had an 11 on a par 3 at Honda on the 71st hole after going from 70 30th place to top 3 or 4, and then make an 11. I think I shot 73 that day with an 8 over par on one hole.
Jeez.
But
you've made
I
so
think,
many people feel good about themselves with that story. Thank you.
well, there you go. I think over the course of 85, I really played some really good golf, and just felt like something good was going to happen. And I I missed the cut at Westchester the week before, and went to Detroit on Saturday afternoon, and went out and practiced Sunday morning, and all of a sudden it felt good. Okay. You kind of got locked in, and I had a great week of preparation there. I'd play 9 holes in the evening where you could chip and putt and spend hours. Literally, I spent an hour in the 17th green.
Okay.
One of the nights, and knew that if the hole was cut on the right side of the green, you had absolutely no chance to 2-putt from the left side of the green. That right-hand bunker was a fine place to play from. Mm-hmm. And as we got into the tournament, I played beautiful golf the first 3 days, and went out on Sunday and played a really great round of golf on Saturday, and cold, rainy day. A day a lot like they had at Augusta this last week. Maybe not quite as much rain, but it was just a miserable day. Mm-hmm. And I shot 70 that day, and that really kind of got me in position to win the tournament. And went out on Sunday and really didn't have it at all. I didn't hit very many solid shots. I drove in the rough pretty much every hole. I missed a ton of greens. I was 4 over, I think 4 over, walking to the 12th tee for the day.
All right.
And really just coming off of 3 bogeys at 9, 10, and 11, which are hard holes. But I went from having the lead after TC messed up early to now I'm back, I guess, 1 behind, playing the 12th hole.
Yeah.
And I drove in the right-hand fairway bunker that's not even there anymore, and hit a 5-iron out of the bunker laying up on this par 5, and made a swing again. You know how it clicks in. Mm-hmm. It's like everything that's gone by the last hour, 2 hours and a half, has disappeared. And I hit a wonderful shot there, hit a really good approach to about 8 feet, missed the putt with a 9-iron. Then the par 3, I hit it in there about 12 feet and made it for birdie, and got the lead back, and hit really good shots the rest of the way in. Got to 17, and literally my concern was to make sure if I didn't hit it on the right part of the green, I would miss the green to the right.
In the bunker.
And I put it in the bunker, mm-hmm. and it hit a great bunker shot up to a tap in. And
tap in? To me, yeah. It was longer on TV when I went there.
No, it literally almost went in.
Okay.
And then got to the 18th tee like I had at Cherry Hills with a 1-shot lead. Drove it hit a great drive down the middle of the fairway, and had 4 or 5 iron left into that green. And by the time I'm ready to hit the second shot, I had a 2-shot lead. One of the guys bogeyed. So I was in great position there. And I remember back when Crenshaw and David Graham were in the playoff at Oakland Hills for the PGA. One of them hit it over the green and made double, mm-hmm. to get in the playoff. And I was not going to hit. So I sort of half laid up short of the green. So you had just a nice little pitch and 2 putts to win. And thank heavens I didn't chunk it in the bunker or something. So we moved on from there. But, to win one's unbelievable. To win second, obviously, very, very satisfying. It shut up a few people that had written some junk over the 2 or 3 years before that. And, which was nice. And just to prove to yourself you could do it again.
Yeah.
And 2 wins on Father's Day is pretty darn special.
No kidding. I listened to that anecdote and your yarn you spun about the 2 victories. And I hear, a word that all of us TV folks, we toss around the place when people ask us to opine. And I'm sort of hearing patience as a thread between everything you're saying there. Like in the final day, you come out on a big day for you and you don't have it. And you're driving the ball in the rough and everything's going wrong. And yet you just kind of were patient. You hung around there and all of a sudden things ebbed and they started going in a direction. Talk about the mindset of being able, or at least having the moxie to do that when it's all on the line.
Well, I think, you could probably ask my wife. I'm probably not the most patient person in the world, but for some reason, I could be very patient on the golf course. That was, I think, one of the strengths that I had, that you could keep just plodding along and, checking off every hole that you make a par on. And I think that's one of the reasons I really loved USGA golf, that you didn't have to go out and be super aggressive and make 20 birdies to win a tournament. I think I made 9 birdies when I won at Oakland Hills for the week.
Crazy.
There's rounds that guys do that in a round now. But I didn't make a ton of bogeys. I think I made 5 bogeys on Sunday. So for 8 for the week, and had 5 of them in the last round. So the first 3 days were real clean. And, that's how you do well in major championships. You don't see the guys winning that make 9 birdies and 6 bogeys in a round very often. It's the guys that you just kind of plod along, and you make a birdie here and you make a birdie there and eliminate the big mistakes. And that's how you win major championships. And I think playing other sports had a lot to do with the mindset you had, understanding that, you can't get it all done in one swing, or you can't erase a 10-point deficit in one basket. You got to just keep plodding along and plodding along and plodding along. And, it worked.
How's this for a cool nugget, folks? 2 victories, I'd mentioned it, 2 US Open victories. Andy's the only guy to shoot under par at Oakland Hills in 1985. So 1 under then, and you shoot 1 over at Cherry Hills. So even par for 2 events, now 2-time US Open champion. That speaks to me, that's the ultimate in patience and just sort of surviving and then thriving when you can.
Well, Mark, I loved it when it got so difficult. I loved it when everybody in the locker room was complaining about how hard the golf course is. That's when you'd walk out of the locker room with a great big smile on your face, because you knew you had 2/3 of them beat before they started. To me, par is a wonderful score. You've got to figure out how to put a drive in the fairway. You've got to figure out how to hit an approach shot to a green, and you've got to figure out how to 2-putt. What can be bad about a par? But yet in today's world, if you can't shoot 20 under par at a normal tournament, you don't even sniff winning. So I could do that once in a while. During my career, I had some weeks where I shot 18, 20 under par, but it didn't happen very often. But when we got to a golf course that was going to be, it was going to be difficult. It was going to be firm and fast, or you knew the weather was going to get bad, or you knew something was going to make it play really, really difficult. Those are the weeks I really enjoyed.
Yes, but for all the tournament golfers listening to this, not just the club golfers, there's a tip hidden in here, embedded. And that tip is, you speak of par, old man par, as Bob Jones spoke of it. On your bad day, all you greats find a way to make par when things aren't going right, even in the birdie bonanza, because if you're hanging around par, you're keeping yourself in position for when you do happen to get that run, then you're not getting back to par, but you can actually venture further under.
Well, it's funny. I've been lucky enough to sit next to Scott Van Pelt at Augusta for 20 years now. And we have these things we've talked about over the years, and he brings back something that I might have said 5 years ago that I don't know if it was smart or not, but I think the Masters is one of those tournaments that if you can just sort of play along, there's a 4 or 5 hole stretch, you can win the tournament. You can play a 5-hole stretch there, 6 under par, and that might be enough to end up being the champion at the end of the week. So if you don't have to press it, you don't have to try to do things you can't do. I go back and look at all the great golf Tiger played, and Nicklaus the same. They had the ability to force players to do things those players weren't comfortable doing, to try to catch them. And I think that's one of the reasons they won so many tournaments, is that they won them, but there was an awful lot of them other guys blew themselves out of because they tried to do more than they could possibly do. And that goes back to the very beginning. Understand what you can do. And if you can't do it, don't try it.
The Reverend Andy North at the podium. All right, Andy, you talked about the Masters. Let's go there. Let's recap. I want to ask you about Jon Rahm and Brooks Koepka, but just I want you to do what you do so eloquently on the desk alongside Scott Van Pelt, as you for ESPN, our lead analyst. Just wax about the event, the 2023 Masters. Give us your impressions, please.
Well, some of the things we talked about beforehand. Jon Rahm has been on an unbelievable stretch the last 6, 7, 8 months. Every tournament he's played in, basically, he's had a chance to win. But over the last couple of starts, he got sick at the Players and withdrew, didn't play his best golf at the match play, and didn't drive it as well. I thought the key to John at the beginning of the week was how is he going to drive the golf ball? If he drove the golf ball well, I didn't think anybody could beat him. Okay. Very simply. His iron game has been so good, particularly wedge 9-8. He's hit a ton of the short irons in a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, rake in kind of distance. I thought that if he drove well, he would be unbeatable. Okay. First day, he hit 14 fairways, shot 7 under par. Didn't drive it very well he missed some fairways in the middle part when the weather was kind of swirly, and he was about even par in that stretch. Sunday, again, he drove the ball exceptionally well. Hit key tee shots when he needed to do it and set up some nice birdies, and I think that set up his win. Brooks, at the beginning of the week, we talked a lot about, he's playing well. We thought that he was the absolute best bet on the sheet before the week started at 33 to 1. Absolutely.
Okay, 33 to 1, certainly, yeah.
And he was 65 to 1 the week before the tournament in Orlando. So for him at 33 to 1, a guy who, he's finally healthy. And you understand his golf swing probably better than I do, but he's always used his legs so well in his golf swing. And if your left knee doesn't work or your right knee doesn't work, you're not going to be able to do that. And we saw that Brooks Koepka the last couple of years. We see the Brooks Koepka now of 16, 17, 18, where his leg drive is back. His strength is back. He's able to just unload on drives now that he hasn't been able to do. And I thought that being healthy, and he's a player that would come to major championships. He could raise his level at major championships. Not many players can do that. Only the best of the best have been able to do that. Usually the major championships affect players in a negative way in that their game isn't as good as normal. Mm-hmm. He's always been able to take his to another level. And I thought that this last week was, he's coming in there with a chip on his shoulder. He's playing well. He's got some health back. I thought he was a lock cinch to have a great week.
Well, you look at how it transpired, and Brooks they're both alpha males we had in our final grouping of 2 there.
Yep.
Was like 2 titans of the game, really. And Brooks had the ascendancy through 54 holes. But did you sort of feel, I did, that there was an inevitability really about Rahm? Just the way he was going about it, because whereas Brooks looked really good, I almost felt like because John had played so much more, I think maybe he had the advantage, and it turned out to be a truism.
Well, we talk so much about tournament tough, and Tiger coming in with rust because he hasn't played enough golf. I mean, Scotty Scheffler played 7 rounds of golf at the match play 2 weeks before. John had played 9 competitive rounds basically this year. I thought that might have a telling tale, but it sure didn't look like it early on. Could that have affected him maybe a little bit on Sunday? Maybe. I thought the key moment of the golf tournament was when they stopped play at the 7th hole Saturday, and they're going to come back out and start. And Rahm had hit a really nice iron, another really good short iron in there about 8, 10, 12 feet from the hole. Brooks put it in the front bunker and blasted out about a foot or so outside of where Rahm was. Now they've got to think of those putts overnight. They're coming back to start. At that point in time, Brooks had a 4-shot lead. I thought that was going to be a real critical first 5 minutes of the start of Sunday, how they handle those putts. Brooks missed his. John made that. All of a sudden, it's a 2-shot swing and the game's on. Yeah. If it had been the other way around and Brooks had a 4-shot lead, I'm guessing Brooks probably figures out a way to win the tournament from there. So to me, that was such a big, big moment. And it was a moment that a lot of people didn't pay much attention to because it was so early in the morning.
There's another lesson that the fans listening to this can learn from the US Open champion. In golf, we have enforced timeouts, and sometimes they're more than the 3 of the overnights. Sometimes there's rain delays and weather delays and such. Dealing with the night before the next round or the time in the rain delay, that is a skill I don't think many golfers actually really learn or endeavor to find out more about how to handle it. So I'd love you've been there, slept on leads and stuff, been around the lead. Help us to do better in that time when we get to think a little bit more about the game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that go on. Personally, I didn't sleep great.
Okay.
Nights of competition. It's hard for me to turn my brain off. Thank heavens we were in a period of time where you weren't on your electronic devices as soon as you got off the golf course. You'd try to go back and obviously get a good meal and try to relax and find a way to turn your brain off. That was the hardest thing to do for me. If I could turn my brain off, I'd sleep great. If I'd start going over the round and thinking about shots and all that kind of junk, you never can shut it down.
Yeah.
I never slept well on a Sunday night. I slept better Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night than I did Sunday night, because Sunday night was, you're so jacked up because either you played great,
yeah,
or you're going over all the mistakes you made, which probably helped you get ready for the next week, but it didn't help you sleep very well on Sunday night. So, but I think, we're such creatures of routine. If you've got a routine that maybe you read at night before you go to bed, half an hour, or just something to get your mind off of what you're doing, that's really important. But to me, if I could get enough to eat and sleep halfway decent, I could deal with pretty much whatever got thrown at me the next day.
Stay off Twitter, because you're bound to find something bad about you.
What is Twitter? What is it?
That is wise advice.
I love Scotty Scheffler for a ton of reasons, but have you ever seen him do a social post?
He doesn't have social.
No, he doesn't. I think he's still got a flip phone, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he's still driving his 2000 whatever it is Chevy Suburban. The guy's still, he hadn't even bought a new car.
He's got like 300,000 miles on it. Well, I thought somebody in one of the media guys in his weekly press conference. So, Scotty, what have you done? Anything you've indulged yourself, for after you've won all these tournaments, made all this money the last 18 months? And he sat there. I said, I haven't bought a car. We're still in the same house. Haven't bought a house. We haven't done any of that stuff. Oh, I bought myself a cold tub. That's it. That was his big indulgence. Which, oh, by the way, that sort of helps you in your business. So, yeah. I love the guy. I think he's got such a great way of going about this, and I thought we saw more emotion out of him the weekend at Augusta than we ever have. So, for him, I don't think that's great. And I think that's one of the reasons he struggled a little bit on the greens.
Shows how meaningful it is, though. The pressure of being the reigning champion, the defender.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of those cold tubs, by the way. They really help. They've helped me. He did joke also about, he goes, well, once every so often, and I'm Meredith, his wife, we splurge on a fancy bottle of tequila. That's about the extent of it with his, and then he invites his friends over to share it too.
Yeah. I mean, but isn't that awesome? I mean, there's a guy he understands him. He understands what he wants to be and where he wants to go. I think that's just absolutely beautiful. It's so easy to get caught up in all the other junk that has nothing to do with what you're doing.
Andy North, you're a legend. I aspire to be like you. So I'm so thankful you would join us.
You better recheck that box.
Come on now. I'm thankful you would join us and share the wisdom. You have said to the listeners, to the viewers, understand who you are and what you can do. Give them the parting shot before I let you go, please.
Oh, I don't know. I think that, those of us who have had the opportunity to play this game have been so lucky. The friendships, us sitting around talking in the trailer at these tournaments, we'd have never done that. No. I get a big kick out of getting to meet your family, that kind of stuff. That, that's something that doesn't happen in a lot of other businesses. When we started out, it was, like a traveling gypsy show. We all drove. There wasn't courtesy cars. There wasn't food. There wasn't range balls. There wasn't all the things that are in the game today. And if you're playing well, some other wife would maybe watch your kids so your wife could go out and walk 9 holes. I mean, it was really the friendships that we made were fantastic back then.
Yeah.
And they still are. Our kids had 2 sets of friends. They had home friends and on tour friends, which is really neat. But the opportunity to be involved in this game which has given us all so much. And yet it's such a simple game. You can do it with your friends. You can do it by yourself. You can do it when you're young. You can do it when you're old, although it's getting way more difficult, by the way. But I think that's really cool that we've been lucky enough to get in this business, and through the TV, we've been able to stay in the business. Again, the friendships you've made are amazing, and I appreciate that.
This is the truth, and long may you stay in television, because you bring a lot of insight, and certainly
Thanks, appreciate it.
that role.
As long as I keep fooling you, Mark, everything's good.
Then you're winning, right? Okay, you've berated social media some. I'm assuming you don't have it, because I'm asking this because the viewers are like, okay, Andy North, I need to find out more. Where do they go if to find out more about Andy North, please?
Probably in like a 1962 World Book. I don't know. My goal, and this is probably pretty stupid, my hero when I got on tour, or that once I got to be a friend with him, was Gene Littler. He was a guy that went about his business, won tournaments, had a great career, and was pretty much invisible.
Swinger was, I mean, that golf swing was heavenly.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And just love the guy to death. And he went about it where he left the golf course and no one had any idea who he was.
Yeah.
Payne Stewart was a little bit like that, because once he was off the golf course, he was in, jeans and some other shirt and no knickers and no Ben Hogan cap, and no one recognized who he was, which is pretty neat. But obviously the world's changed. I don't know if I could have been functional in this era, but it's what it is. And the guys have figured out how to deal with it. I was shocked that the guys walked down the fairway doing an interview on television. I thought they were great. And those guys are guys that understand how to use the media and use the medium. I would never have seen myself doing that. Trust me.
You know what? I'm fortunate to work for CBS, and I was shocked when I heard they were happening in the Masters. I can understand it at other regulatory events, but the Masters, that was somewhat surprising. We're fortunate, but you're right about that. Andy, I've kept you for so long. Thank you so much for joining us. Now we're fortunate because you don't engage anywhere else. So, folks, this is the only place you'll find this man.
Well, that's true. You could probably always get some stuff out of Badger Sue.
Badger, is that your best lady, Badger Sue?
That's it, Badger Sue. She might get in an argument with you every once in a while on Twitter, but I try to stay as far away as I can. Right. The only thing I have is that you should see what this guy did. Here's a video of something. I'll get that once in a while, but thank heavens not too much.
Well, thank heavens you joined us. Andy North, you're the best. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you.